At this whole time too, it's like DC starting. Did DC start at the same time that you broke your neck surfing? Was this all in the? This was all in the same year, right?
Yeah. The surfing accident, yeah, that happened, yeah, 94, something like that.
Well,
Summer 94.
Summer '94.
That was in Hawaii, right?
No, it was in
it's here?
California.
It was in California.
Yeah.
And what exactly happened? Did you hit your head on the sand or
Yeah,
what?
it was just a small day, and I forgot that it was so shallow, and I dove in and like just dove right into the sand.
Wow.
Yeah, so I ended up in like, I had a bruised brainstem and a hematoma on my spinal cord. I had like problems with I had some paralysis with my movement, my upper body. I had a lot of neurological problems for a while.
I'm sure.
Vertigo when I'd get up. I couldn't stand up for very long, and I was a mess, and nobody could seem to understand how to help me get on a path of resolution or healing.
Okay.
Because it was, broken neck is a term, it's easy to understand it that way, but I didn't physically break any bones.
Got you.
What I did is I tore the ligaments that hold your skull onto your atlas vertebrae, your top vertebrae, your C1.
Wow.
Okay.
So the vertebrae, that's where all the nerves to your whole body go through that one, through the first vertebrae, through that tunnel.
Yeah.
And they start branching out as you go, each stage down.
Got you.
So all of the nerves that fed the rest of my body were all affected because I bruised the area that feeds, that before any nerves had branched out. Like I had a hematoma on my spinal cord in the occiput area, which is like, that's the area. Like if you break your neck or if you have an injury there, that's the one that would kill you real quickly.
Oh.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So that hematoma is basically blocking everything.
Nerve
the nerves
signals.
from.
Yeah. So that, and a lot of Western doctors couldn't understand that. They were like, oh, there's no broken bones. So we don't really know what to tell you as far as like what to do about it.
I mean, that's devastating.
So, I basically, went into a really dark place, man. I was like,
Imagine.
bedridden for almost a year. I was just like in the darkness in my bedroom, just like couldn't stand up. So I had to lay on the floor. Like,
Oh my gosh, dude.
I whittled away until I could just a frame of bones. I could barely move my upper body. I could barely, I could move my legs and wiggle my toes and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I had numbness everywhere. Enough stuff going on that I was so scared to stand up because I thought that any little slight movement was going to kill me or paralyze me.
Okay. Wow.
So, to go from that, and to get to a point where I'm actually skating again was like unbelievable. Like I couldn't even believe that it's still to this day. Like I can't believe I got, and it never resolved completely. Like I have a lot of problems still to this day from that.
Okay.
And the journey I had to go through to get the right guidance to understand the injury to help me get out of that was pretty, extensive and, very, depressing and to a point of like, giving up hope on everything. So yeah, I met a guy named Paul Check after, probably met like 20 people, different orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons, tons of chiropractors, tons of healers. There's like anybody and everybody I could, so-and-so, he's great. He could he's helped my buddy out, whatever. Everybody has
absolutely
their guy that did something amazing for somebody they know. So in desperation, I was going to anybody and everybody and not getting anywhere. So it got pretty dark. And then I found out about this guy, Paul Check. And, I was at my wit's end and pretty much over everything, ready to just call it a day.
Wow.
And I just was like, well, what do I have to lose at this point? And I met this guy, and right away he was like, I know exactly what's wrong with you. Like, I understand this injury completely. I've had a patient that had a similar injury, so I know what to do to help you,
It's almost music to your
Wow.
ears, right?
Yeah.
Because you said the doctors don't know anything, they can't help you, and here you are, just like finally somebody's there that says that they
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know
that
what's
road, but that road, you almost thinking like, are you really going to be able to help me?
That's true too.
Absolutely,
That's true
because I
too.
lost faith in like any of these other people that
Right.
supposedly had the ability to help me, or the referrals to these other healers, doctors, chiropractors, neuromuscular therapists, whatever it was. I just lost faith in it all. I was
get
like,
you.
dude, I don't know. I just think that I did something to myself that's it's not gonna, you can't heal this.
Right.
So yeah, that path was pretty dark, and then I started to work with this guy Paul Check, and Paul, right the first day I saw him, gave me hope, which I didn't want to believe in, but I started to listen to the things he was telling me, and I could sense his energy. He was so confident, and just understand like the way he talked to me, and the confidence he had in helping me. I could feel it, I mean? It was not like any of the other people that I had met. I could tell everyone else wanted to tell you something good, you know, but they were scratching their head going, this is an interesting situation. Like, and some people didn't even want to get involved in it. They're like, this is like a little bit outside my league.
So, I can't even take this on.
Could you imagine?
I hate telling this story because I hate, talking about like all these things that like, it's like, I don't, like it's so like a pity party or like, oh my God, like everyone feels sorry for me, but it's not like, the irony of this, like what I learned out of this was so massive moving forward with my athletic career, and just the way I looked at, my lifestyle from that point on changed because I learned so much from this guy that even, though I have residual problems with this neck injury, to this day, like I have, which I treated in Colombia. I had these discs injected with, stem cells into the discs, but I have 3 crushed discs in my neck.
Oh, you do?
Completely crushed from that injury. So I have, vertebrae sitting on vertebrae with no bushings in there.
Oh my God.
So the nerves are very pinched, and I get all kinds of neurological problems from it. And it's constant. It's like 24/7. It never goes away.
Damn.
So that's been, and as I'm getting older, it's progressively getting worse. So, at some point, that would have, that without the right maintenance, my career would have been over. It's one thing to get out of the woods with that, but another thing to understand how to maintain a lifestyle that's going to be able to give me the longevity that I've had on top of it. So
to continue skateboarding.
But then also all the other injuries that I've acquired along the path too. Like I really believe if I didn't go through what I went through with my neck injury, the accumulation of other injuries that would have happened without the education that I got through this sort of, process would have ended me a long time ago.
Got you.
So like, despite all of the, the baggage I have from this neck injury, the, the wisdom I've gained and the experience I've gotten and the education I've gotten through this, understanding how to deal with this neck injury and the resources I obtained have been able to get me through everything else.
Yeah.
So like, it's been, I always think about it, I'm like, well, if the neck injury didn't happen, how far would I have made it? Like it'd be nice not to have these problems within my neck, but would I have been, would I be in the shape I am today? Would I understand that health and wellness, the things that I understand today that keep me going, and, the lifestyle that I live today would it be possible? Like if without all of these things that I had to go through, like,
and it's also the, overcoming that, and being going from that dark place to a place where you can get on the board again. And like, that's huge, knowing that like, well, if I went through that, I can get through that easy.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I went from that, I think it was like a year and 3 or 4 months after the injury, I met Paul.
Okay.
He said, bring your skateboard to the next appointment. And I was like, why do I need a skateboard? And he was like, I haven't seen a board in a long time. I just like to see how skateboards are.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, I'll bring you a board so you can check it out.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, my son skates a little bit or whatever. And I just, didn't have any clue that he was like trying to lure me into getting on the skateboard. But that was his main reason, is like,
he wanted you
literally the mental, like the sort of mental block I had, on top of the injury. The injury is one thing, but like I was so fearful of something else happening that like he said if I didn't overcome that by, tricking my mind into believing that these, that the sort of fear that I was holding on to doesn't exist, that I would never be able to heal this injury. So,
and like you said, you're thinking about if you move a certain way, you could die.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That was your mentality.
And to be honest, there was a little bit of truth in that. So
how were you getting around at that point? Were you like in a wheelchair?
I wasn't in a wheelchair. I could walk.
You could walk? Okay.
But it was very slow and fragile.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's was at a like time period where I was living with Ken Block at the time, and like he was my roommate, and you know he would go to work at Drawers, you know, or DC, and you know he would come home and he would just you know be like, hey, you cool? And he would look in the room and see me on the floor at the same position and spot I was in before he left for work in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you need anything? And I didn't really have anyone to take care of me.
Right.
My mom was like living in Mammoth, and like I was on like literally on an island of my own through that whole process.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah,
That is mentally
so
taxing.
I was going to the, you know, I was driving like that, like I had nobody else to drive me to doctor's appointments,
Oh my God.
to the store to get food. Like I just had no support whatsoever, and I also didn't have insurance.
Ooh.
Oh my
So
gosh.
you know, all of a sudden I have like, you know, all these medical bills that I'm facing, and you know, it was just like I went broke. I didn't have any support, so it was a real heavy time period for me.
Yeah, I could
So,
imagine.
And that's when Ternasky passed away, and you're trying to do Plan B.
yeah,
All that's happening. Around
all that's happening,
Jesus.
and
Super heavy.
yeah, the neck injury humbled me so much,
I can imagine.
and you know, it definitely made me take a step back and look at my life and look at the things, you know, that I was, you know, just how the perspective I was able to achieve in that moment was priceless, and I really believe it changed my life in a lot of really good, positive, healthy ways. You know, like
let me ask you this: what was the defining moment when Paul Check is his name?
Paul Check.
What was the defining moment or something where you started believing that this would help? You're seeing results. You're feeling the results, because I feel like the way to the recovery is like as soon as you start feeling there it's working, is actually like brings you up to the next level and spearheads your
mentally, like you're just
mental,
like, let's
you know?
go.
Yeah. Was there a certain moment or exercise or something like what?
The programs he got me on and the treatment I was getting, because he's also really good friends with this, you know, this Atlas alignment or Atlas specialist that has an alignment technique that's non-manipulative. So like it's not like a cracking sort of technique that aligns.
He's
the atlas.
basically moving it back into place.
Yeah. So here's an analogy of what happened. Like if you broke your arm, if you don't set your arm and put it in a cast, it's going to heal. Like your arm could heal like crooked.
Yeah.
So the soft tissue is similar, and like the atlas vertebrae, you know, your head's like, you know, like an egg that sits in, and the atlas is like a cradle. So the atlas has these ligaments like that cross on each side of your spinal cord.
Okay.
I tore those ligaments, and the atlas slid out of place and was sitting on my spinal cord. So my head was tilted cockeyed like this. And you have balance receptors in your occiput to keep your eyes level. So what happened is my neck, you know, or my spine started shifting all these things out below to get my head square so that I was able to see straight. So my whole frame and everything, like I was like, my back was like shaped like an S. Like, but what happened is those ligaments were torn. The atlas was sitting on the spinal cord for over a year and 3 months. All those ligaments healed with my atlas sitting on my spinal cord. So
they had to get those ligaments back into alignment, right?
They had to break up all the scar tissue in those ligaments and then move the atlas vertebrae into place several times a day. Like I was bouncing from Paul Check's office to his name's Kenny Shepard's office.
Okay.
Twice a day. I'd go to Paul Check's. He would work on me. He'd go in there and dig, you know, very painful process, you know, to get the vertebrae mobile.
Right.
He'd go in there and dig in there and basically loosen everything up. I'd go to Kenny Shepard's and he would set the atlas vertebrae in place. Then by the time I get back to Paul Check's, it was already slid back into the same place it was at. So we were doing that for like a few months, twice a day, every day. And then in between then I was doing the, you know, like all of the training exercises that he was, you know, I started very, very, you know, elementary,
right,
and then progressed as my vertebrae started to hold in the right place, you know, and it would start to hold for a day and then 2 days. And then eventually it started holding in place again, which is a miracle.
Wow.
Based on how long it sat out of place.
Right. They basically were like training it to go back and then building those tissues and muscles up to hold it.
Building strength around it. Exactly. Right. So that process took, you know, a few months.
Okay.
And it was so, you know, I mean, I literally this was like all day, every day dedicated. My whole day was built around this process.
Could you feel it move out when you were just walking or something?
Yeah, because my head would tilt and like twist, and like my shoulder, was like sitting back like this. Like my whole frame was all twisted up.
Wow.
Like, and it's everything your body does to compensate so that your eyes sit level.
Yeah.
Whatever it has to do below to get your head square, it'll shift and do whatever it has to. So the theory in chiropractic is if you line the atlas, it'll self-align the rest of your spine.
Oh,
So, and that's true. So there's a lot of theory that, people have that say like, as long as they align your atlas correctly, then you shouldn't need to have any other chiropractic.
Interesting.
There might be adhesions in some of your joints. So it's good to sometimes break up those adhesions so you get, the mobility in those joints.
Right.
But that isn't necessarily aligning your spine or your vertebrae. Your body will self-align your spine.
Wow. Okay.
If the atlas is aligned correctly, then all those follows.
It's funny, I was telling you before the show, I went to a person who studied the Czech philosophy and whatever, and that was one of the first things he made me go do was get my atlas aligned.
There you go.
Right away. That was the first thing.
Where did you go?
To tell you the truth, this was so long ago, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But he referred me to somebody, and then they popped it back in, or what? It was a little out of alignment,
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the theory, especially with Paul Chek's work. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of it's based on like, it's strength and alignment. Posture correction and building strength with having a square balanced frame is the whole mentality.
Yeah, I loved it because, I went there for my Achilles tendon. When I had the Achilles tendon thing, I found this guy, and he was the Czech Institute, whatever. But it was very like non-traditional ways of working out. Like he would have rulers going down and like doing like lifts and on a ball and like very calculated. And I mean, the first meeting, he just measured my whole body for like 2 hours, was just getting
he did
in there.
an evaluation.
So
he can see where all the imperfections are and all the misalignments and then imbalances and all the compensations going on.
He nailed it.
I
just stopped going to him because I couldn't afford it anymore.
Yeah,
Pricing.
Yeah, but I learned what I learned, and it was great.
Definitely. And like my whole process, like, I did so much work with Paul over the years that I sometimes work with somebody because it just, kind of shines light on some of the things that I maybe forgot or bring. And that work is always evolving. So the guys that do it, there's new exercises I learn here and there. And for the most part, I've got to a point where I could train myself.
Yep.
And, I would only really seek, consult when I had an injury that was, something that I thought maybe it might be a good idea to get some advice on how I should go about resolving it.
Absolutely.
So these injuries sometimes, can be complex but for the most part, just standard, maintaining and doing maintenance work. I don't really need, to pay somebody to do that at this point.
Sure.
And I could probably, if you guys wanted to come to my place, I could train you guys.
Hell yeah.
That would be awesome.
I'm just saying, like, I'm at a level where I know from my experience, I don't want to, I'm not trying to be a trainer, but I've definitely, got to a place where I think, I could help somebody get into shape.
Totally.
Sure.
And I feel you on that, because when I was going through my Achilles tendon, it was like a year's worth of physical therapy and this. And by the end, I had like, muscle stems, big old machines. I had balls. I had all the toys. I had everything. I mean, I was basically like, a certified, uncertified physical therapist at that point. I mean, I knew everything.
If you spend your whole life doing this, it's like I just had those 3 surgeries, and like at the my orthopedic surgeon, the one that I've worked with for the last 25 years, just retired. So I'm working with another one that's, he's also really renowned. He's a highly respected and world renowned.
So Dr. Previte?
Previte's my guy.
Yeah, I got surgery from him too, actually.
But there's another doctor named Tal David, and he's like, he works on a lot of the NFL players.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Pro
Sick.
ball players
Amazing.
and stuff. But Tal, I just had surgery with him, and he's good friends with Previte, and Previte just operated on Previte as well. So it's a little ecosystem of guys that are all friends and stuff. But Tal, after I, got the procedure, he's like, hey, you need help getting set up for therapy or physical therapy, whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think I need to get signed up for therapy. I think I can
got
do this
this.
myself.
Yeah.
There's some things I probably could have had some help with, like deep, just it's hard to massage your own knees
Yeah,
and stuff, but
yeah.
like digging into the scar tissue is a pain in the ass,
Right.
and it'd be nice to have somebody help me do that.
Totally.
Some massage work on muscles, but for the most part, I've done a good job on my own, and I think I basically got enough education
Yeah.
these days where
You know what to do.
yeah, I mean, but not, I wouldn't recommend it for everybody if you're not, if you haven't gone through it.
I mean,
definitely get advice and get the guidance.
And that's the thing is I preach is like after any injury, physical therapy is like the key to getting back to where you want to be.
Yes.
So
It's definitely an education, it's nice to have, but it's something, I guess you don't want to have to learn.
hopefully you don't. Yeah.
I'm grateful I've got the sort of experience I have, but definitely don't wish it upon anybody to go through the class or school that I've had to go through to get it.
Where is that like button? Right? Is it right here or right here?
Just a little scroll coming down the bottom.
It's
Subscribe.
over to it's on your
It's on my
left.
right? It's on
No,
my
on your
left.
left.
Hey,
Yeah.
hit that
there.
button right there.
Right there.
Right
Yeah,
there.
please.
The like button's kind of like in the middle there. It's like we're kind of
Oh, it's like
there.
right here?
Kind of.
Like
yeah,
right
The
there?
subscribe's like over to the left.
Like right over there. All right.